Okay, so today's video is going to be a little bit more chaotic because I've already tried to film a couple times and I could not stay on like one thought. And so I was like, I'm just gonna say whatever comes to mind. It's just gonna be a little bit messier of a video and more of like a brain dump style like I've done before. So um I the last couple days, all I've been doing really is just reading my book and resting. Actually, I was able to do laundry and dishes today. But the reason why I wasn't able to do much is because this past weekend I was recovering from all the socializing that I did. And I was thinking a lot about how in those moments, like people, that they would not believe that I have autism. And that's not for me to prove to them. But I see how that plays a little bit into like my imposter syndrome and why for a long time, even though I had suspected that I had autism, at the same time, I was like, no, like I can't have autism because I don't fit it in these ways. Like what I was doing this weekend, how do I explain this? I want to maintain some of my privacy, right? So I don't want to go too in depth into what I was doing, but it was kind of along the lines of like sales and interacting with a lot of different people. And so it required basically like 2 whole days of like socializing. And in those moments, I know that it seems like I'm really good with people because I'm really not like, when it comes to how I am as a person, I am very talkative. Oftentimes it's more that like I talk out of turn and I miss social cues. It's not really that I tend to be quiet and reserved. Um, and so I've actually been told that I seem to be really good with people and that um, I'm good at conversation and things like that, right? Which isn't entirely false. You can't just say like good at socialization or you're bad at socialization. It's like there's so much nuance to the conversation of that. Does that make sense? Um, and so sometimes I find myself feeling like I need to prove to people that I am disabled because whenever they, want to say like, well, you don't seem like you're autistic. And most people don't really say it, but I know that there are some people who think it. It's like I want to move past that and just not care about other people and needing to prove that I am who I am, right? Because these people are not me. They don't see everything that goes on. They don't see that, like, yes, from an outsider's perspective, it looks like I'm really good at socializing, which it's like in those moments, yes, I am good at socializing, but that's not every single time. It doesn't mean that the majority of the time I get it right. And it doesn't mean that I'm not struggling and like that my brain isn't calculating like 17 different ideas of like what I could say and what I might have done wrong, like especially afterwards. Like you don't see the social hangover, how exhausted I am and how I can't think, how like the thoughts of everything the past weekend and what I might have potentially done wrong, or like just me analyzing all these different aspects, just everything. You don't see how much that runs through my brain over the next couple days and how that makes it impossible for me to function. But I know that, like I know myself. So it's like I am constantly like fighting this imposter syndrome, especially because when you've grown up so high masking and you were even like in advanced classes and people told you were so capable, it's like it makes you think that you can't have it. But then I also remember the other ways where I didn't feel as capable as everybody else, and how whenever I expressed it, people would tell me, there's no way that you feel this way. Like, you just need to keep pushing through because how can you struggle in this but excel in this? Like, this very thing of like people not understanding that you can struggle in one area but exceed in another, that is why my disabilities went unnoticed for so long, because they could not fathom that I could be disabled, because people think that if you're disabled, you have to be disabled all the way, like in their head. There's no such thing as like being completely disabled in that way, right? Like, well, maybe there is, but it's like people have this idea in their head that you can only be disabled if you're also intellectually disabled and if you're also physically disabled. If you're nonverbal, right? They don't understand. And that's not for me to prove. I don't need to prove that to people who are not willing to understand, right? But people who are genuinely asking, like, oh, like, I'm surprised that to hear that you have autism because, or to hear that you're autistic because you seem so capable in this way. Like, what ways is it disabling for you, right? If you were to genuinely ask me that question, then I could explain it to you. Those are the only people who I feel like, you know what I mean, who deserve the explanation. The other people, you have to remember, they don't want to actually understand. They just want to, they already have the idea that they're right and you're wrong. In those cases, you don't need to explain yourself to them and waste energy on them. And that's not even just to say, like, when it comes to trying to prove your disability, right? That's just in general with life. I feel like I've learned that over time. It's like, there's been so many, like, whenever I started to cut off my family who, you know, was not willing to understand me, there was a part of me that felt like I needed to prove to them. And for a long time, I really did try to explain to them, like, why I did the things that I did and why I no longer condone the things that I did. And I realized that no matter how much I explained it, they were not going to understand. And that's because they didn't want to. And so I had to stop giving my energy to that because it was just exhausting. So, yeah. And sometimes I get, so like I said, we had 3 days of this event, and I'm over here like 2 days of like I couldn't do anything, just rest. And then on the third day, today, I was able to do the dishes and do the laundry. Whereas, you know, my partner who came with me and was doing the same thing on the trip, maybe even had a little bit more of the stress on him, he was able to go back to work the next day and not have any issues, no brain fog, no anxiety, no running thoughts going through his head that distracted him from doing what he needed to do. He went to work, you know, and in those moments, it makes me feel like inadequate, like I can't keep up. And it's because I can't keep up in a neurotypical way. I can't keep up in that way, right? But that's not to say that like I'm any less worthy. But that's something that I'm constantly like convincing myself of because I spent my whole life feeling like I was inadequate. But then that's whenever it's important for me to remind myself that I do have a disability. And like, as disempowering as it feels sometimes to admit that I can't do the things that other people can do, it also feels so validating because it gives a reason as to why I can't. Like, it's not my fault. It's not due to a lack of my effort. It's because of how I'm made, right? But then I try to pull myself out of the disempowerment of it and remind myself that there are plenty of people in the world who are autistic and have ADHD, who have careers and who have made a mark on the world. But also, I don't need to make a mark on the world to prove that I'm worthy. Like, I don't need to have my name be known to the world, you know? And in fact, I don't even want that. Like, I would love for my channel to get to a point where it reaches more people who will appreciate the things that I have to say and, feel seen and find some type of value in what I have to say. Like I said, like in me sharing my experiences and everything. This bird is it's kind of scary. But I don't want it to get so big that like too many people know my name. Like, I just want to get to a point where I can make enough income comfortably by sharing, Does that make sense? I don't have the words that I wish I had. My brain is still trying to get into the right state. I'm learning to be okay with showing up just as I am, not like today. I didn't feel like putting on makeup and doing my hair. I was like literally right before, my goal was to, brush my teeth, get ready, get makeup on, get my hair done, and then film. But then I was like, the idea of doing that was exhausting. I was like, I need to do all that and then film too. And then I know that it often takes me multiple takes to film and it can take a long time. And then I was like, you know what? I don't have to do makeup if I don't want to do makeup. Like, I want to show up real and authentically. And realistically, like I just told you, like I am not at my best, but that's okay. Like I can show up however I feel. I don't need to be 100% to show up and be seen. Like it's not shameful for me to like appear weak or not at my best. You know, that I feel like there's so much pressure in the world to appear a certain way and to show up like perfectly. And a lot of that, like the pressure of trying to appear a certain way that isn't even really how I feel or how I am, it's like that takes up so much energy. And so I don't really have the energy to care too much anymore. And my life is better for it. So I didn't finish saying what I was trying to say a second ago. What was I talking about? Like right before I brought up that point. I'm not sure. So I've been thinking like, oh, I was talking about ways. Okay, so there are plenty of people who are neurodivergent who still have been able to have successful careers. And it's not that I feel like I need to have a successful career, but it's that is something that I desire, that sometimes I feel like is out of my reach because I feel like it's hard for me to function. Like, how do I say? Like I've experienced burnout when working so many times. It didn't matter how many times I cut back my hours. But then I remember that there are some people who are able to live outside of the typical 9 to 5, who are able to make a living. I don't have to, I had this idea that in order to have a successful career and to make something of myself in that way, like that I needed to be able to handle a 9 to 5. And I'm like, no, I don't have to be able to do that, right? Like when you think about a lot of like, see, even they suspect that they suspect that Albert Einstein was autistic. Like he was so into his research. He was not bound by the limits of the 9 to 5. You know what I mean? And there's all these different careers where you are not bound to the limits of a 9 to 5. I was just remembering like this book that I'm reading right now. I was like, wait, these people who write, like the structure of writing, do you think they write within a 9 to 5? Like, no, maybe they do if they want to, you know, put that on themselves, right? But they are able to, you know, they have this creative outlet where they can write in their own time. You know, like they can write on the weekends, they choose their own hours. And sometimes, you know, like when it comes to creative efforts, it's like the inspiration sparks you at a random moment. You might not even be planning to work, but then you're going to start working, you know, and like writing because you have ideas in the moment. And I was like, that's the type of life that I would love to live, where it's just, I do things according to my own schedule. And that's a lot of what pushed me to content creation, right? Because I can film in my own time, I can film drafts ahead of time, and I can post them accordingly. And that's been working for me for my short form content for a while now. Like I actually had a lot of drafts that at the time when I took them, I was like, oh, I feel like these aren't good enough to post. But then I went back and I watched them and I was like, who am I to say what's good enough to post? And I was like thankful that past me didn't delete these drafts, because future me is able to use them when I don't have the energy to speak to the camera, when I don't have ideas that come to mind naturally about like what to write about, or about like what to film about. And I'm like, in this way, I am not bound by the 9 to 5, and I'm still able to do something for myself. And like, these are like my creative outlets, right? I've always loved to speak and express my thoughts. I want to continue doing this. My goal is to continue doing this. I have faith that I can continue to make this work. You know, like I said, I don't film within a 9 to 5. I don't film within any schedule. I also write, and I don't write within any schedule either. I just write when the thoughts strike me, right? I'll just be like reading, or I'll be watching TV, or just anything random. And I'll just have this idea and I'm like, I want to go write this down. That is the type of life that I want to continue to live. And when I think about that, I'm like, you know, I see obviously other people create content and they are able to sustain themselves financially through that. You know, when I think about writing, like that's something I do too. Other people literally write books and they make a living from that. And that is also not within the 9 to 5. I'm like, that gives me more confidence and makes me feel like, okay, like this can work for me. I don't have to completely let go of the ideas of what I thought I could have. Because like a lot of the process of, how do I explain this? Whenever I was diagnosed, there's this grieving process of like letting go of what I thought my life would look like and accepting that my life is like this. But then there's also me opening more doors for myself and recognizing that even though I may feel limited in this way, and I feel like acknowledging my disability has closed off a lot of doors for me, it actually opens other doors that I didn't know existed, right? It's just that you have to like, what am I trying to say? It's like, it's not a no. It's like, I don't have to tell myself, no, I can't have these things. It's, I can have these things, but I need to look at it from a different perspective and factor in the ways that I need to be accommodated, right? I can't fight the fact that I know that I need more rest than other people. I can't fight that like my body, like I know that if I try to pretend to be like everybody else, like I have all my life before I was diagnosed, then I am going to continue to burn out. And it's not going to work for me. So I have to accept it. And by accepting it, then I'm able to like properly think about what my future paths would look like. Like, you can do this, but you have to accommodate in this way. You can do this, but you have to accommodate in this way. And even like say something as simple, well, not simple. Like if I think about kids in the future, right? I recently said that I don't want kids, that like the life that I'm planning for in the future, it does not involve kids. It actively goes against it. But that is a really hard decision for me. Like, I know that I can change my mind at any time. Well, not at any time, you know, like ideally you don't really want to have kids past like 35 in terms of like your health and stuff, right? But I'm 24. I have 10 years to decide whether or not I want kids within that time frame, right? But I don't have to decide now. I don't ever have to change my mind. But right now I am almost grieving the idea, because it's like, I know that there's so much that I want to do for myself. I know that my energy will be spread out, and I want to do as much as I can for myself before even thinking about a child. So as of right now, like I'm actively like, what am I trying to say? I'm getting distracted by all these birds outside. I'm seeing birds that I usually don't see. I don't know how to explain this. It's like I'm grieving the idea of not having kids. But at the same time, I know that that's probably best for me. And then like, I'm grieving the idea that I'm not gonna have a regular career. But then I'm like, wait, that's something I can still give myself. It's just not gonna look like what other people's careers look like. And that's okay. I'm thinking even about my therapist right now. She doesn't work a typical 9-to-5, but she has a career. She makes money from her passion, right? From like helping people and like, or her passion for mental health and everything, right? Especially like her specifically is, in her case, she's even like she specializes in neurodivergence. She only works a few days a week. She, you know, has really helped me see that I don't have to feel so limited by my disability. She has ADHD. She says that she doesn't know if she has autism, but she doesn't care if she does or not, because she already lives her life like accommodating for herself. And I would love to get to that point where it's like I don't see it so much as like a restriction. It's like it's a disability within the way that our systems are set up. But if our systems weren't set up this way, you know, like it's really not a disability. And I am blessed enough that right now I have the opportunity to seek out a career path, I guess, if you want to call, you know, like content creation a career path, that where I can work on my own time. And it's scary right now because I don't know where it's going, you know, like I don't know, I can't predict when or if I'm going to be able to make a living from it, but I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna keep trying, and I feel like I can't fail unless I quit, right? I recently hit 10K on TikTok, which means that I am now able to make income from it. Sadly, the creator fund is not as easy of a way to make money, I've heard, as it was like in the last few years. Like I apparently a few years ago it used to be a lot easier and it used to pay out a lot more and the views were better, but now it's not. I don't know if that's the case for everything. But the fact that like I am even in the creator fund now and I have the opportunity to make money through that, that's like a great milestone for me to hit, you know? But really, I would love to build up enough on YouTube to where like YouTube is really my priority. But yeah, it's scary because I'm not going to be able to do this long term, like without bringing in some money. Like my partner taking over the bills, that's a temporary thing. I don't know when it's going to reach the point of like, to where like my partner is going to feel the financial burden. So that's like the scary thing. That's as personal as I'm going to get in that way. I still want my privacy, right? But I'm trying not to worry. I'm doing my best to not worry. I've been switching trying with doing, right? Because it's like, if you're doing it, you already are doing it. You're not, if you're trying, you're already doing it. You're not just like, at what point do you switch doing and trying, right? So I'd rather just say doing, because I feel like that, oh, see, I don't have my words right now. And I don't really like posting videos. Like I have the urge to like refilm, you know, because I don't sound as eloquent as I usually do, especially in the other videos where they're a little bit more organized. But like I said, I'm just gonna show up as I am right now. My brain is still cloudy with the recent events, but that's okay. That's just the reality of things. I'm not scared to show what my reality is like, even if it feels vulnerable and weird and I feel like I'm just exposing all my imperfections. I want to encourage people to, you know, feel like they can show up in the way that they can. And what better way to do that than by modeling it, right? And like there's so many ways that I've felt like insecure and so many worries that I've had about what other people might think. And it's funny because it's like nobody cares like about all the things that I thought people would point out and like criticize. People have not criticized those things. Like I used to edit out every single time I stuttered in a video. How funny for me to stutter on the word stutter. Like in my previous TikToks when I first started posting 3 years ago, because I thought that people would bully me for it and that they would criticize me for stuttering. And then I just decided to stop editing it out because of how much I stuttered anyway. I was like, what are people gonna say? Like if they point out that I stutter, so what? Like I'm gonna be upset over somebody pointing out the obvious. Like it's fine. And then nobody pointed it out. I used to think that people would point out my teeth. Nobody has ever pointed it out except for in the videos where I'm directly talking about my teeth, right? Where it's like an open discussion. But I used to edit out if I smiled because I didn't want people to see my teeth. And if I stumbled over my words, or I felt like I explained something kind of badly, I used to refilm and refilm. Like I would refilm like a 2-minute video like 10 times to wait until it was perfect. And then I started posting a lot of imperfect content, and that was received very well because I was just speaking my mind. And then I was like, hey, I remember a couple of my silly videos going viral where they didn't take much effort and they weren't refilmed, where I was like, this is messy, but fuck it, I'm just gonna send it through. And then those videos did really well. And they were like, people liked those videos. And it wasn't just about people liking the videos, it was about the fact that it was like me talking about something that mattered and people receiving it in that way and telling me that they appreciated me posting these videos, right? That encouraged me even more to keep on posting my imperfect content, right? So yeah, sorry, that led me into thinking about other things that I want to talk about, but not today. My brain is already tired, but thanks for listening. I hope there was something you got out of that, even though I'm not sure if I made sense even a quarter of the time. But yeah, bye.